The colony of Brighthaven was a place built on dreams. It rested on the surface of a distant green world known as GA7. Thousands of light-years away from Earth, yet somehow it carried the same feeling of home. The forests were bright, the oceans were clear, and beneath the alien skies lived 12,000 humans who believed they had finally found peace among the stars. They grew crops. They built houses. They raised their children beneath constellations that were different from Earth, but the laughter was the same. At the center of the colony stood the school, the heart of Brighthaven. Every day, 847 children walked through its doors. They learned to read, studied the history of Earth, explored the mysteries of the universe, and spent their breaks running through open fields, their voices filling the air with joy. It was the kind of life humanity had always dreamed of. Simple, safe, happy. Dr. Kim Yuna was one of the people who protected that dream. She was a small woman with gentle eyes and steady hands. As the colony's chief medical officer, she had brought many of Brighthaven's children into the world herself. She knew every name, every birthday, every fear, and every little habit that made each child unique. To everyone else, they were patients. To Yuna, they were family. But on the night everything changed, that family was torn apart. Yuna was still working late inside the medical center, checking supply records and preparing for the coming week, when the first explosion shook the ground beneath her feet. The lights flickered. The walls trembled. Then the sky above Brighthaven burned. Strange ships descended from the darkness, massive, silent, and unlike anything humanity had ever seen. Their hulls were black and sharp, covered with unfamiliar symbols that seemed to warn anyone who looked at them. They were not human. They were Veeth. The Veech were towering creatures with gray skin, powerful bodies, and cold, calculating minds. They had heard stories about humanity, but they had never truly encountered them, and what they saw was not a threat. They saw weakness. To the Veeth, humans were fragile creatures, too emotional, too peaceful, too soft to survive the harshness of the galaxy. They believed humans were made for one purpose: labor. And the children of Brighthaven? The Veeth considered them the perfect workers, young enough to break, strong enough to endure, easy enough to control. As the colony's alarms screamed through the night, Dr. Yuna looked outside and saw the impossible. The home she had spent years protecting was under attack, and the children she loved were in danger. They came with weapons that made no sound. Soldiers moved through the streets like shadows. They went straight for the housing blocks where families slept. They broke down doors. They pushed parents aside. They took the children. Park Miso was 9 years old. She woke up when a gray hand grabbed her arm. She screamed for her mother. Her mother ran toward her, reaching out crying. A Vey soldier knocked her down with one swing. Miso was carried away into the night, still screaming. Young was 11. He tried to fight. He kicked and bit and yelled. Avith looked at him with cold eyes and said something in their language. Another soldier hit Sung on the head. He went quiet. They threw him into a transport ship with dozens of other children. Some children did not make it to the ships. A boy named Beek Jun was only 6. He was small and sick with a fever that night. When the Veth grabbed him, they scanned his body with a device. The device beeped red. The soldier looked at Jun for a moment. Then he dropped him on the ground and shot him with a beam of light. Jun did not move again. 34 children were killed that night. Too sick, too young, too difficult. The Veth did not see them as lives. They saw them as broken tools, not worth carrying. 203 children were taken. When morning came, Brighthaven was silent. Parents walked through the streets like ghosts. They called names that no one answered. They found small shoes in the dirt. Toys dropped in panic. Blood on doorsteps. Dr. Kim Yuna found the bodies. She walked into the community center, where the Veth had gathered the rejected children before killing them. She saw them lying on the floor. Small bodies, still faces. Some still wore their sleeping clothes. One girl clutched a stuffed rabbit. Yuna fell to her knees. She had delivered that girl 3 years ago. She had held her in her arms and told her mother that she was healthy and beautiful. Now she was gone. Yuna did not scream. She did not cry. Something inside her went cold and hard like ice. She stood up, walked to the communication room, and sent a message to Earth. Her voice was flat and empty. "This is Dr. Kim Yuna, of Brighthaven Colony. We have been attacked. Our children have been taken. Many are dead. Send help. Send everyone." 18 hours later, a ship appeared in orbit. The UEF patrol vessel Vigilance had come. Captain Park Tae came down to the surface with his officers. He was a tall man with a hard face and calm eyes. He had fought in 3 wars. He had seen death many times, but nothing prepared him for Brighthaven. He walked through the colony in silence. He saw the broken doors, the empty beds, the parents holding each other and crying. He saw the photographs of smiling children pinned to walls and held and shaking hands. Lieutenant Kong Dae walked beside him. He was young and had never seen anything like this. His hands trembled. His voice cracked when he spoke. "Sir, who did this?" "We will find out," Part said. They reached the community center. The bodies had been covered with white sheets, but the shapes were still clear. Small shapes. Too small. Park Tae stopped walking. He stood there for a long time. An old woman approached him. Her name was Grandmother. Oh, she had lost 2 grandchildren that night. Her eyes were red but dry. She had no more tears left. "Captain," she said, "they took our babies. They killed them like animals. What will you do?" Park Tae looked at her. Then he looked at the white sheets on the floor. He knelt down beside the smallest one. With gentle hands, he lifted the corner of the sheet. He saw a small face. A boy, maybe 5 years old. He had freckles on his nose. Park put the sheet back down. He stood up slowly. "Find out who did this," he said to Kong. His voice was quiet but heavy like thunder before a storm. "Find out their names, their home, their leaders, everything. And then, sir," Park turned to look at his officer. His eyes were no longer calm. They burned with something dark and ancient, something that humans had carried inside them since the beginning of time. And then he said, "We make sure they never harm another child again. Every last one of them." The hunt had begun. The message from Brighthaven reached Earth in 3 days. It traveled across the stars at the speed of light, carrying words that would change everything. Admiral Choi Hyun received it first. He was the supreme commander of the United Earth Fleet. He had served for 40 years. He had gray hair and a face full of lines from years of hard decisions. He sat in his office and watched the video from Dr. Kim Yuna. He saw the bodies. He heard the numbers. 203 taken, 34 dead. His hands gripped the edge of his desk until his knuckles turned white. He played the video again and again. Each time, his jaw tightened more. Within hours, the news spread across Earth and every human colony. People watched on screens in their homes, their offices, their ships. They saw photographs of the children. They heard the crying of parents. They watched as a mother held up a small dress and begged for someone to bring her daughter back. The reaction was immediate. In Seoul, people gathered in the streets. They held candles and pictures of the children. In New York, crowds stood in silence for hours. In the colonies on Mars and Titan, workers stopped what they were doing and wept. Then the grief turned into something else. Director Bae. Mina led the Earth's intelligence services. She was a small woman with sharp eyes and a sharper mind. She worked through the night pulling together every piece of information about the attackers, the Vet Dominion. She reported to Admiral Cho Hyun the next morning. They control 8 star systems about 200 light-years from Gaia 7, population of 40 billion, military strength, approximately 600 warships. "Why did they attack us?" the Admiral asked. "They wanted slaves. They believe human children are easy to train and control. They did not expect us to fight back." Admiral Cho Hyun was quiet for a long moment. Then he said they were wrong. The United Earth Council met that same day. Counselor Yunho led the meeting. He was an old man with a gentle voice, known for his love of peace and diplomacy. But today, his voice was not gentle. "We have received a message from the Galactic Assembly," he told the council. "They are asking us to show restraint. They want us to pursue diplomatic solutions." The room erupted in angry voices. Representatives from every colony shouted their disapproval. Yunho raised his hand for silence. "I will respond to them now." He stood before a holographic transmitter. His image would be sent to the Galactic Assembly, where representatives of 100 different species watched and waited. "Members of the Assembly," Yunho began, "you ask for restraint. You ask for diplomacy. Let me ask you something in return. If someone came to your world and stole your children, would you send diplomats? If they killed your babies and threw their bodies on the ground like garbage, would you write letters?" His voice grew louder. 34 children are dead. 203 are in chains somewhere, scared and alone, waiting for someone to save them. And you ask us for restraint. He leaned forward, his eyes burning. "There will be no restraint. There will be no negotiation. There will only be consequences. And when we are done, the galaxy will remember what happens when you touch our children." He ended the transmission. Across human space, people cheered. In the military bases, soldiers lined up to volunteer. The enlistment numbers rose by 4,000% in a single day. Young and old, they came forward. They wanted to fight. They needed to fight. Admiral Choi Hun called a war council. The room was full of commanders, captains, and strategists. Maps of Veeth space glowed on the walls. "We have identified the VET homeworld and all 7 of their colony systems." Director Bay Mina reported, "Our scouts have confirmed the location of the children. They are being held on a colony called Thetaphor. How many ships can we send?" Admiral Choi asked. 2,400 warships, sir. 15 million ground soldiers. Full combat readiness in 72 hours. A young captain raised his hand. "Sir, the VTH have 600 ships. We would be sending 4 times their number." "Is that necessary?" Admiral Cho Hen looked at the young man. "Captain, they took children from their beds. They killed them because they were inconvenient. This is not about winning a battle. This is about sending a message that will echo through history. We will not match their strength. We will overwhelm them so completely that no species will ever consider doing this again." "Duh." Captain nodded and said nothing more. Ambassador Shinjia returned from the Galactic Assembly with reports of alien reactions. The other species were confused. Some were frightened. "They do not understand," she told the Admiral. "They see humans as friendly traders, peaceful explorers. They never imagined we could be like this." "Did not want to be like this," the Admiral replied. "They made us this way." The fleet launched on the 4th day. 2,400 ships moved through space like a wave of iron and fire. At the front was the Vigilance with Captain Park Tae at the command. Behind them, Earth grew smaller and smaller, but the anger of 8 billion people traveled with them, burning hotter than any engine in the VTH Dominion. Leaders received reports of the human fleet. They laughed at first. Surely this was an exaggeration. Humans were soft creatures who cared too much about feelings and art and love. "It will send a few ships and make demands." The Vathai commander said, "We will negotiate, perhaps return some children as a gesture. It will be over in weeks." He was wrong. The humans were coming, and they would not stop until they were done. The human fleet moved through space like a silent storm. At the front, Captain Parte stood on the bridge of the Vigilance and watched the stars pass by. He had not slept in 4 days. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw the small bodies under white sheets behind the main fleet. A smaller ship traveled in darkness. It carried the Ghost Hounds, the most elite special forces unit in the human military. Their leader was Commander Lee Nari. Nari was a woman of 40 years, with short black hair and scars on her hands from many battles. She had trained for 20 years. She had completed missions that most people never heard about, but she had never felt anger like this before. "Our mission is simple," she told her team. "Find the children, bring them home. Everything else is secondary." One of her soldiers, a young woman named Jiang Hana, sat in the corner cleaning her weapon. Her hands were steady, but her eyes were wet. Commander Hana said, "My brother Sung is one of the children they took. He is 11 years old. He likes to draw pictures of spaceships." Nari walked over and put a hand on Hannah's shoulder. "We will find him. I promise you." The first contact with VTE forces came at a border outpost called Station Krell. The Vet had 92 ships defending it. They expected the humans to stop and negotiate. Captain Park opened a communication channel. The Veth commander appeared on screen. He was tall and gray with 4 arms folded across his chest. "Human vessel," the Vet commander said. "You have entered VTH space. State your purpose." Park's voice was cold as ice. "You attacked our colony. You killed our children. You took 203 young ones from their families. We are here to take them back." The Vet commander made a sound like laughter. "Those children are property of the Dominion now. They will serve us well. If you wish to negotiate their return, send your diplomats. We may release some as a gesture of goodwill." Part stared at the screen for a long moment. Then he said, "There will be no negotiation." He ended the communication. The battle lasted 47 minutes. Human ships moved with perfect coordination. They had trained for years. They had fought wars among themselves and learned from every mistake. Now they turned all that skill against the Veth. Pilot Sergeant O Wu flew his fighter through the chaos. His call sign was Storm. He had grown up in a small fishing village on Earth, dreaming of flying among the stars. Now he flew with tears on his face and fire in his heart. "This is for the children," he said, as he destroyed a Vet warship with a precise shot. "This is for every parent who will never hold their baby again." When the battle ended, the humans had lost 3 ships. The Vet had lost 80 to 9. The surviving Vets sent panicked messages back to their homeworld. The transmissions were intercepted by human intelligence. "They fight like nothing we have ever seen," one Vet officer reported. "They do not stop. They do not retreat. They do not accept surrender. They keep coming and coming until there is nothing left." Another transmission said, "We underestimated them. They are not soft. They are something else entirely, something terrifying." Veth commander finally began to understand his mistake, but it was too late. The Ghost Hounds reached Thetaphor ahead of the main fleet. Commander Lenari and her team landed in darkness on the far side of the planet. They moved through the night like shadows. The labor facility was a gray building surrounded by fences and guards. Inside, 169 children were held in small rooms. They had been there for weeks. They were tired and scared. Some had stopped talking. Some cried every night. Jung sat in a corner of his cell. His face had a bruise from where a guard had hit him, but he had not given up hope. Every night he drew pictures in the dust on the floor. Spaceships. His sister Hannah is home on Bright Haven. "Someone will come," he whispered to the younger children. "Humans never leave their people behind. Someone will come." Outside, Commander Nari looked at the facility through her scope. She counted guards. She studied patrol patterns. She planned every step to go in quiet. She told her team, "No alarms, no mistakes. The children are the priority. We get them out first. Then we call in the fleet." Young Hannah checked her weapon one more time. Her hands were not shaking anymore. She was ready. "I am coming, son," she whispered. "I am coming." At midnight, the Ghost Town Hounds moved in. They cut through fences without a sound. They took down guards before they could call for help. They moved through hallways like ghosts, their weapons making only soft sounds. Commander Nari reached the first cell block. She saw the children inside huddled together in the darkness. When she opened the door, they looked up with frightened eyes. "It is okay," she said softly. "We are human. We are here to take you home." A little girl began to cry, but it was not sad crying. It was relief. In another part of the facility, Jung Hannah found her brother's cell. She opened the door and saw him sitting against the wall, thin and tired but alive. "Son," she said. He looked up. His eyes went wide. "Hannah." She ran to him and wrapped her arms around him. She held him tight and did not let go. "I told them," Son whispered. "I told them someone would come." Outside, Commander Nari sent a single message to Admiral Choan. Children secured 169 survivors, ready for extraction. The Admiral's response came immediately. "Well done. Get them to safety, then stand back." He paused before his final words. "We are coming, and we will burn everything else." The evacuation shuttles lifted off from Thetaphor, just as the sun began to rise. Inside, 169 children sat wrapped in blankets. drinking warm soup and holding the hands of soldiers who had come to save them. Commander Linari carried 3 small children in her arms as she walked to the last shuttle. They were too weak to walk on their own. One of them, a boy of about 5, looked up at her with tired eyes. "Are we going home?" he asked. "Yes," Nari said softly. "You are going home." Jonghana sat beside her brother Sung in the shuttle. She had not let go of his hands since she found him. He was thin and had dark circles under his eyes, but he was alive. That was all that mattered. "I knew you would come," Sun said again. "I never stopped believing." Hannah smiled through her tears. "I will always come for you. Always." The shuttles docked with a medical ship waiting in orbit. Doctors and nurses rushed to help the children. They gave them food, clean clothes, and soft beds. They treated wounds and held crying kids who finally felt safe enough to let their fear out. Dr. Kim Yuna had traveled with the fleet. She wanted to be there when the children returned. When she saw them walking off the shuttles, she fell to her knees and wept. "Welcome back," she whispered. "Welcome back, my little ones." Ow! But the mission was not over. The children were safe, but justice had not yet been served. Admiral Cho Hun gave the order from his command ship. His voice was calm and heavy. "All vessels, begin the operation. Spare no military target. Show no mercy to those who showed none to our children." The human fleet moved forward like a wave of destruction. The first VAT colony world fell in 6 hours. Human ships surrounded it and destroyed every military base, every weapons factory, every government building. The Vet defenders fought hard, but they were overwhelmed by the sheer number of enemies. Captain Park Tae led the attack on the second colony. He remembered the small body under the white sheet, the freckles on the dead boy's nose. He fought with cold precision, never hesitating, never slowing down. "Sir, the enemy is requesting surrender," Lieutenant Kong Dae reported. "Denied," Park said. "Continue the attack." One by one, the Vet colonies fell. Military installations burned. Defense platforms crumbled. Ships tried to flee but were hunted down and destroyed. The Galactic Assembly watched in horror. They sent messages asking the humans to stop. Ambassador Shinjia read their pleas and set them aside. Where were these pleas when our children were being murdered? She said, where was the Assembly's concern when babies were thrown away like garbage? We will stop when we are finished. Not before. The VT government made its first official attempt at surrender on the 9th day of the war. The VTH High Commander sent a message directly to Admiral Cho Han. "We admit our mistake." The message said, "The attack on your colony was wrong. We are willing to pay reparations. We will punish those responsible. Please let us end this war." Admiral Choi Hein read the message. Then he deleted it. "They did not ask permission before taking our children." He said, "They do not get to ask for mercy now." The fleet reached the Voth homeworld on the 12th day. 800 human warships surrounded the planet. It was a large world with great cities and billions of inhabitants. The Veeth had built their civilization here for thousands of years now. It was surrounded by enemies who had come from across the stars to deliver justice. The Veeth Emperor himself broadcast a message to the human fleet. He was an old creature with 4 arms and a crown of metal on his head. His voice trembled as he spoke. "Please," he said. "This was the work of a few rogue commanders. Our people are innocent. We did not all support this action. Show mercy, and we will do whatever you ask." Captain Partey responded. His face appeared on screens across the VTH homeworld. He looked at the Emperor with eyes that held no warmth. "You knew," Part said. "Your government approved the raid. Your military carried it out. Your people celebrated when they heard human children would become your slaves. Every institution in your empire enabled the suffering of innocent kids." He paused. "There is no mercy for those who prey on the innocent." The bombardment began. Human ships fired on military targets across the planet. Defense systems, government buildings, weapons factories, communication centers. One by one, the symbols of VTH power were reduced to rubble. The VTH fleet tried to fight back. It was a brave attempt, but hopeless. They were outnumbered and outmatched. Within hours, their ships were burning in orbit. The bombardment lasted 3 days. When it was over, the VTH Dominion was no more. Their homeworld was in ruins. Their colonies were broken. Their fleet was destroyed. 40 billion individuals had been reduced to scattered survivors with no home to return to. A small number of Vet were allowed to live. They would be refugees now, wandering the galaxy with nothing. They would carry the memory of what happened for the rest of their lives. Admiral Cho Hunan made one final broadcast to the galaxy. His words were translated into every language and sent to every corner of known space. "Let this be a lesson," he said. "Humanity does not seek war. We want peace. We want to explore and trade and make friends among the stars. But we protect our children with everything we have. If you harm them, there is no corner of the universe where you can hide. We will find you. We will end you. This is not a threat. It is a promise." The message ended. The fleet began the long journey home. In the medical ship, Jung looked out a window at the stars. His sister Hannah stood beside him. "Is it over?" he asked. "Yes," Hannah said. "It is over. You are safe now." Sun nodded slowly. Then he pulled out a small piece of paper. On it, he had drawn a picture of a spaceship flying toward Earth. "I want to go home," he said. Hannah smiled and hugged him close. "We are going home." 10 years passed. The galaxy had changed. The empty space where the Vet Dominion once stood was now just a dark spot on star maps. No one traveled there anymore. No one wanted to remember, but everyone remembered the lesson. The Galactic Assembly created new laws in the first year after the war. They called them the Bright Haven Accords. These laws protected the children of all species. No government could harm, enslave, or abuse the young of any civilization. The punishment for breaking these laws was complete. Isolation from galactic trade and travel. Every species signed the accords. No one argued. No one refused. On day 7, the colony of Brighthaven had been rebuilt. The streets were clean again. The fields were green again. Families walked through the parks and children played under the trees. But a new building stood in the center of town. It was made of white stone and surrounded by flowers. Inside, 34 names were carved into the wall. The names of the children who never came home. Every year on the anniversary of the attack, people gathered at the memorial. They brought flowers and candles and photographs. They spoke the names of the lost children out loud so they would never be forgotten. Dr. Kim Yuna came to the memorial every year. She was older now, with gray in her hair and more lines on her face, but her eyes were still kind. She ran a recovery center for the survivors of the attack. Many of them were teenagers now. She helped them heal from their memories and build new lives. "Some wounds never fully close," she often said, "but we can learn to live with them. We can find joy again." Jung was 19 years old now. He had grown tall and strong. The bruises on his face were long gone, but he still had nightmares sometimes. On those nights, he would call his sister Hannah, and they would talk until the sun came up. He was studying to become a teacher. He wanted to work with children to make them feel safe and loved. He wanted to be the kind of person who protected the young, just as others had protected him. Hannah had left the military after the war. She could not fight anymore. Instead, she worked on Brighthaven as a counselor, helping families who had lost someone. She lived in a small house near the memorial, and she visited it often. Commander Lina Ray had retired too. She lived in a quiet place on Earth, in a house by the sea. She spent her days tending a small garden filled with flowers from many different planets. She never talked about the war unless someone asked, but she kept a photograph on her shelf of the 169 children she had helped rescue. Every morning she looked at it and smiled. Captain Park had become Admiral Park. He still served in the fleet, but he was tired now. The weight of what he had done never left him. He did not regret it, but he carried it with him always. On the 10th anniversary, he came to Brighthaven for the memorial ceremony. The whole colony gathered to hear him speak. He stood before the crowd in his uniform, looking at the wall of names. 10 years ago, he began, we lost 34 children. They were killed because someone saw them as things instead of people. They were killed because a distant empire thought our love made us weak. He paused and looked out at the crowd. Survivors of the attack stood with their families. Parents held their children close. Old soldiers stood with tears in their eyes. We did not want war, he continued. We never want war. We came to the stars looking for peace, for discovery, for connection. We built colonies like this one because we dreamed of a better future for our children." His voice grew stronger. But the galaxy learned something about humanity 10 years ago. They learned that our love is not weakness. It is our greatest strength. We protect our children with everything we have. We do not forgive those who harm them. We do not forget. He raised his hand toward the memorial. These 34 names remind us of the cost. They remind us that peace must be guarded. They remind us that evil exists and must be faced. He lowered his head. To the families who lost someone, we will never forget them. To the survivors who carry scars, you are not alone. To the galaxy watching, remember what you saw, and think carefully before you ever harm human children again. The ceremony ended with silence. No applause, no cheering, just quiet respect for those who were gone. Afterward, Jung walked up to Admiral Park. The old soldier looked at the young man with tired eyes. "You saved me," Sunung said. "You and my sister and Commander Nari and all the others. You came for us when we had given up hope." Part put a hand on Sun's shoulder. "We will always come. That is who we are." Later that night, on a distant world in a corner of the galaxy, a young alien child looked at a star map with her father. She pointed to an empty spot with no stars marked. "What is that place?" she asked. "Why is there nothing there?" Her father, a merchant who had traveled far and wide, looked at the empty space. He remembered the stories. He remembered the warnings. "That is a reminder," he said softly. "A long time ago, a powerful empire lived there. They thought they were strong enough to do anything they wanted. They attacked a human colony and took their children." The child's eyes went wide. "What happened?" "The humans came for them," her father said. "They came with ships beyond counting. They did not stop until that empire was dust. Now nothing lives there. Nothing grows there. It is just empty space." He looked down at his daughter with serious eyes. "Remember this, little one. There are many things you can do in this galaxy. You can trade with humans. You can be their friends. You can travel with them and learn from them. They are kind and generous most of the time." He knelt down to meet her eyes. "But never ever harm their children, because they will find you. They will hunt you to the edges of the universe. And when they are done, there will be nothing left of you but a warning to others." The child nodded, her small face serious and thoughtful. Across the galaxy, the stars continued to shine. Human ships traveled between worlds, carrying traders and explorers and dreamers. Colonies grew and thrived. Children played under alien skies. And somewhere in the back of every alien mind, a simple truth remained. Humanity was kind. Humanity was peaceful. Humanity was forgiving. But harm their children, and they would erase your entire species from the stars. This was not a story. This was history. And history, as everyone knew, had a way of repeating itself for those foolish enough to forget.